To welcome you to the 55th, I guess this is our 55th luncheon for the Cape Cod Writing Center, and delighted you're all here. I know we're going to be a little short of time. I'm going to prevail upon the faculty to please hold classes for a few minutes because we have a great deal to do this afternoon. 55 years here, not here, but since Marion Wigomere, our founder, and the 12 o'clock scholars decided it would be good to capitalize on all the writers who came here in the summertime and have a few writing classes. So here we are. I wonder how many of you can remember when we were back at Craigville? Let's see, show of hands. Quite a few of you, yes. Well, we missed the beach and we missed the quaintness of the place, but I think you all enjoyed the air conditioning and the internet and the parking here. So we're glad some of you are still here. And it's great to see that the centers continue to thrive and to grow. So thank you all. We hope that you will continue to write and most of all to publish. It's my privilege today to introduce you to the Honorable Randy Hunt from the Massachusetts General Court. That's our state legislature. He has something special to say. Let's welcome Honorable Randy Hunt.
Getting instructions on how to use a microphone as a politician is not necessary, I can tell you that. I am here because of the fact that this conference has been going for 55 years, which is an amazing thing. There are very few conferences or other things that have been going on for 55 years consistently like this one has on every year. And I'm also particularly interested in writing. I dabble, but I haven't done anything too serious, but I have to say it's on my bucket list for sure. I've probably written, dozens of little short stories that amuse me, but not many other people. So trying to expand that and do something for real, and do a book and to get published and that type of thing, I understand that it's a whole lot more than just wanting to do that. And what you get here at this conference is critical in many cases for people to kind of see what it takes to make things happen, or you might get some tip that just is exactly the right thing that you needed to hear, and you leave this place inspired to do your work for the next year and then come back. And hopefully you will come back year after year. So what we have done in the State House is prepare a citation recognizing the Cape Cod Writers Center in this conference. And so I have the citation with me, and just so you know, the citation and the ribbon and the little gold seal I pay for personally, so. And if you could come up here, Nancy, I want to present this to you. And Barbara, please. Sorry, she's going to get to talk in a minute. Okay. It's fantastic. So what this says is, let me put my reading glasses on. There we go. Be it hereby known to all that the Massachusetts House of Representatives offers its sincerest congratulations to Cape Cod Writers Center in recognition of their 55th annual conference and for sustaining a Cape Cod literary tradition. The entire membership extends its very best wishes and expresses the hope for future good fortune and continued success in all endeavors. And it's given this 5th day of August, 2017, signed by the Speaker of the House, and also signed by a whole bevy of state legislators from the Cape Cod area, including our State Senator Julian Sear, State Rep David Vieira from the Falmouth area, State Rep Dylan Fernandez, who is also from Falmouth and represents the islands. State Senator Vinnie DiMacedo is from Plymouth and represents the Upper Cape as well. State Representative Will Crocker, whose district we're in this afternoon. State Representative Sarah Peake, who has the Outer Cape, like 11 towns out that way, maybe 7 towns. State Representative Tim Whalen, who is also part of the representation in Barnstable, and by me. So we all got together to do this for you, and I hope you find a wonderful place to keep this. And I wish you personally success in everything that you do going forward. So thank you.
Thank you. Now it's, first I'm going to take this off because I'm free. Thank you very much, Randy. It's really wonderful. And we hope you come to the Writers Center, to the conference, and write a book.
I would love that.
We would love to have you here. So maybe you can fit it into a schedule in the near future. It's my delight to introduce B.A. Shapiro, who really needs no introduction. Best-selling New York Times author of The Art Forger, which of course is, continues to be a bestseller, and her more recent book, The Muralist. And as she has told me, she's working on a new book, which will probably be out pretty soon. That is, in another year. Barbara is an intrepid in terms of her literary pursuits. She's the author of many novels, and I'm not going to go through her whole bio, but along with that, she has many other talents, has served in a number of different capacities. She talks about herself as a mathematician who starts out her work. Of course, we've had many discussions this week and otherwise about how you do that, and she prefers to plot as much ahead as she possibly can, whereas some other people do it, as she says, and other people do by their seat of their pants. They just intuitively go on from an idea or a character. But whatever she does, she certainly is successful. So it's my pleasure to welcome B.A. Shapiro, and we're lucky to have him.
Hi. Well, this is great. This kind of event has been a really long time coming for me. I wrote 5 books that were published, and nobody read them. They came out, and they died. They were all psychological suspense. They all took place in the Boston area, and I thought, well, I guess this isn't really working all that well. So maybe I'll try writing a different genre. So I thought, what do I like to read? I like to read like women's fiction. So I wrote a book that was women's fiction. And I thought it was pretty good. So I gave it to my agent, and she didn't think it was that good at all. So I got another agent. And that agent took it to all of the publishers in New York, and every single one of them agreed with the first agent. So then I thought, okay, maybe I'll write a book that's half psychological suspense and half women's fiction. Seemed like a good idea. Wrote the book. Thought it was really good. So I gave it to my agent. He didn't think it was good at all. So I got another agent. This agent took it to all of those big publishers, and all of them turned it down. So now, I had 5 books that were, this was before the internet, so they were out of print, they were dead, they were gone. And I had 2 that hadn't even been born. And, you guys will be able to relate. Any normal person might have, writing is my 4th or 5th career, depending on how you want want to count them. And any normal person would have said, okay, I'll get a different job, I'll go back to my previous careers. But no, that didn't even occur to me. I thought, what is it that people like to read? What do people like to read? They like to read thrillers, right? So I thought, okay, I'll write a thriller. I had no idea how to write a thriller. So I went to my local library and I found a book, and any of you who want to write thrillers can find this book also, and it's called How to Write the Blockbuster Novel. And in this book, he talks about 6 things that you need to write the blockbuster novel. Your character has to be bigger than life, it's got to be set on an international stage, you've got to have multiple viewpoints. I followed every single one of his dictates over and over and over again. And I wrote a novel that was a damn good thriller. It was then, it still is now, and there's a reason you haven't heard about it. Agent didn't like it, got a different agent, took it to all the publishers, nobody wanted it. So now I'm getting really depressed. And I thought, I think it's time for another career. I'll just shut this one down, say it was successful. I published 5 books, even if nobody read them. I was done. So I actually did come up with something else that I was willing to do. It wasn't what I wanted to do. I wanted to write another novel. And I was talking to my husband one night at dinner, talking about the new job, and he looks at me and he says, "You don't want to do that. You want to write another novel," which, of course, I did. I'm sure you've all heard the adage that what a writer needs is a room of his or her own. And I have a room of my own, and I love my room of my own. But what a writer really needs is a working spouse with benefits. And here, my working spouse with benefits was telling me to write a book. And I'm like, great, okay, I'm not going to do this job. I'm going to write another book. And then he says, why don't you forget the genre stuff? Why don't you just write the book of your heart? And I'm like, oh, cool. I get to write another book. I get to write the book of my heart. Well, it is the book of my heart. I had no idea. But fortunately, I have a file, and I bet there's a number of you who have a very similar file. Mine is very cleverly named Novel Ideas. And in this very cleverly named file, I have newspaper articles and magazine articles and scribbles on napkins and photographs and postcards of all the things that I thought I might want to write a novel about. So I flipped it open, and there was an article about Isabella Stewart Gardner and the Gardner Museum. And I'd always been thinking about writing a novel about her. So I thought, cool, I'll write a novel about Belle. And so I started working on it. And it just wasn't enough. There wasn't enough meat there. So I went back to my file, and I found an article on the greatest art heist in history that just so happened to happen at the Isabella Stewart Gardner Museum. And I'm like, great, okay, I'll combine these 2 things. But then I couldn't figure out how to combine them. She died in the 1920s, and the heist happened in 1990. So I'm screwing around on the internet, getting depressed about not having ideas. And sometimes you stumble onto websites that you don't really want to be on, and you're like, get me out of here quick. Well, I stumbled onto a website about art forgery. And I was just fascinated by everything about forgers, Who are these people? And why do they forge? And how do they do it? And what happens when they get caught? Or even more interesting, what happens when they don't get caught? So I did all of this research. I actually have a PhD in sociology, because all writers need a PhD in sociology. I'm sure all of you have one. And so I'm good at doing research. And I did tons of research. And, if you're an academic, I'm sure there's a few academics here, when you do research, you have to go to every last citation of anyone who has even breathed on your subject. and then they've got to be cited in the bibliography and all this kind of stuff. It gets very tedious, which is one of the reasons I got out of academia. But when you do research for a novel, you just do research until you're not interested anymore, and then you make the rest of it up. So I was having a great time. So Nancy touched on this, the idea of the plotters and the pantsers. So I have many friends who are pantsers. Pantsers being those people who have an idea or a character and they just sit and write by the seat of their pants. And they talk about how their writing and the characters come to life. And they just tell them where to go. And they follow along. And I know this is true because tons of people have told me this. And it's never happened to me. It's never happened. But I figured I had done all of this research. And maybe now was the time that it would work. So I set everything up on my desk. I had the research, I had the notes, I had everything all organized. And I sat there. And I waited. And I waited. Nobody came. So, as Nancy mentioned, I was forced back. So actually, not only do I have degrees in sociology, but my area of expertise is statistics, because that really, really goes right into writing. But I do use statistical methods to write my books. So you probably don't know, because I made it up, that all plots follow a normal curve. It's the same for subplots, it's the same for character arcs, it's even the same for something like the history of the Gardner theft. And so if you break this into its 4 component parts, that corresponds to the 4 acts of a novel. And so I do that for my characters, my plots, my subplots. I also use bubblograms, where I'm figuring out the relationships between all of the characters. So these 2 people have to meet to do something here. Who is the third person that introduces them, and how does that happen, and how is that person related to the person who's going to solve whatever the question is at the end of the book. I also do something which I really like that most people think is totally and completely nuts, which is I make tension charts. You don't know about tension charts? So, as I'm writing, for every scene, I assess it a tension coefficient. So, you write these scenes where, things are happening. There has to be some kind of tension in a scene, right? But there's some that have to be, you're building up to something, you're giving the reader a little time to relax. So those scenes get a tension coefficient of 0.25. If there's a little bit more going on, 0.5 up. If it's really interesting, the tension is ratcheting up 0.75. And if it is a huge, major, major plot point, it gets the big 1.0, which corresponds back to those 4 spots on the normal curve. Then I take this chart and I take out a piece of graph paper and I graph it. And I look at it. And if I see that it's getting flat somewhere, I know I need more tension. So I do that. I know it's crazy. There is no wrong or right way to write a novel. Everybody has their own way. The only thing that matters is what it's like at the end. But this is my obsessive compulsive way of doing this. Then I do something very, very sophisticated that unless you have a degree in statistics, you're probably not going to understand. But you're all writers, so maybe you will. I use multicolored file cards. And what I do is I take all of those curves, all the normal curves for each character. And so, for example, in The Art Forger, I had Isabella Stewart Gardner, and she had her curves. And I took out green file cards, and I put all of her major plot points on that. And then she had a nemesis, and I put him on blue file cards and put all of his plot points and over for every character and every storyline. Then I take them to my dining room table and I spread them around and try to come up with a way to get the story to work. This can take a long time, but it's really fun because, well, one reason it's fun is because I don't like to cook. Sorry, no dinner parties. That's honey, just pick something up and we'll leave it to breakfast bar tonight. But really, there's something about the tactile nature of it, and also I keep, all the cards along the side, and sometimes something's wrong, and I get to pick it up and throw it down on the floor and get another one. And there's something about the colors too that really helps me see the flow of the story. So I do that, and then I end up with a stack of multicolored file cards like this, and that's when I begin to write. So with the art forger, I sat down, and with that stack, and I wrote, and I wrote, and I wrote, and I'd say that, and I'm sure this is no surprise to anybody here, that every page of my books have been written at least 20 times, because it's all about the rewriting. So I did that, I finished the book, and my writers group loved it. They just thought it was great. I gave it to my mother. She thought it was the best thing she had ever read. So I then said, okay, this is it, right? This is my shot. Gave it to my agent. She didn't like it. It's not that she didn't like it. Actually, I was in the bar last night with a bunch of writers, and we were talking about this. What she said was she liked it very much, but it didn't fit into a genre. And if it didn't fit into a genre, she didn't know how to sell it to publishers. So I got another agent. And this agent recognized that it didn't fit into a genre, but she liked the book enough that she was willing to go out. And she took it to all of the major publishers in New York, and every single one of them turned it down. Why? It didn't fit into a genre. So now I'm devastated. I have those 5 novels that never went anywhere. Now I have 3 novels, actually 4, I didn't tell you about the first one, that never got published. And it's hanging out in bed all day with the sheets pulled up over my head. And, and now I'm really pissed at my husband. What kind of stupid idea is this? Write a book with no genre? I can't, how do I deal with this? And so I thought about going back to the idea that I had for a new job, and said to my agent, just take this out to anyone, anywhere. I think it's a good book, and I want to keep writing, but I can't keep writing with this many failures. So she was very persistent, and it ended up on the desk of an editor at Algonquin Books. And the large publishers publish 300, 400, 500 books a month, every month. And that's why they need things to fit into a genre. Because they will take their big guys, John Grisham and Rawlings and all of those people, and that's where they put the vast majority of their promotional money. And then there are people whose names you know, and that's where they put the rest. The other 347 books that they're publishing that month, they sell as groups. Here are our mysteries, here's our sci-fi, here's our YA, whatever it is. Algonquin, on the other hand, publishes 20 new titles a year. So they weren't afraid to get behind a book that didn't fit into a genre. And damned if they didn't turn it into a New York Times bestseller, which is what tells you how and so a lot of that, actually, almost everybody who turned down the book contacted my agent and said how happy they were, but I'm not sure they really were. And then all kinds of miraculous things happened. The first one that was great was that I didn't have to divorce my husband, because that was a really good idea, right? And then the next thing that happened was he retired. So now I'm the working spouse. No benefits, as you all know, but I'm the working spouse. Then those 5 books that were dead and out of print, now they're available as ebooks and paperbacks. And I got a contract to write 2 more books with Elvis. I was like, you know, I could not believe I was living my own life. But then there was a problem. I had just taken money, and they had given me a deadline, and I had to write another book. And I had no idea what I was going to write. So I borrowed from my non-genre idea, and decided to write another book about history, mystery, art, and with a little bit of romance thrown in. And I spent 4 years writing that book, which is The Muralist, and that came out 2.5 years. Just finishing up the last book on the contract, which I'm waiting on my editor to get back to me on hopefully what is the penultimate edits. And that should hopefully be out fall of 2018. And so one thing is that it appears that I actually have created my own non-genre genre, which is all for the good. But mostly the bottom line of this whole story, which hopefully will come true for everybody in this room, which is that after 25 years in the trenches, I am an overnight success. Thank you. Do we have time for questions or we don't? Yeah? 5 minutes. 5 minutes of questions. Okay, I'm a teacher, and if you don't ask questions, I'll call on you. So I know there have to be questions. Yes, ma'am.
So I was impressed with the book. I was most impressed with your research. Having a few years in my own, in the art world, I'm curious about how you researched. I understand how you maybe researched the copy, the forging, the canvas, and that. When you were painting and you were applying the paints, I mean, somewhere in your life, have you painted?
When I was a little girl, I wanted to be an artist, and my parents were really supportive, and they sent me to art classes. Unfortunately, it became clear really early on that this was not where my talents lay. So I just became an art appreciator. But I did have a number of artists who allowed me to come to their studios and sit there day after day, and I asked them questions and watched what they did. And then the biggest thing for forgery is there's a book called The Art Forger's Handbook. And half of the book he tells you how you can forge a painting to hang over your living room couch. And the other half he tells you how to write a book, how to forge a painting that will fool the all of the, see, no, I've lost the word. See, Diane?
Critics.
It's critics, yes, exactly, art critics. So it's a combination of, and also, people say to me about the art forger, how do you know so much, and also the muralist, how do you know so much about what it's like to be an artist and hanging out with artists? I say, that's because I based it all on writers, that the groups are all the same. Generally everybody's very supportive, but there's always that one person who's out to get whoever there is and all kinds of stuff like that. So I'm guessing all the creative fields have some similarities. Who else? Oh, come on.
Over here.
Yes.
So, will a statistician in you set aside the disbelief characters can speak to you?
What disbelief?
So your characters still haven't spoken to you, like you started off saying?
No, they don't speak to me in the way that, they're telling me how to write the book. What I actually do is I like to think like I'm an actor, and I research for the part. For like Eleanor Roosevelt is a viewpoint character in The Muralist. And so I read all of this stuff on Eleanor Roosevelt. And when I was writing her pieces, I imagined I was Eleanor Roosevelt, and that's how her scenes and what she did and all of her actions came to me. But it was based on what I had read and researched. I've never had the experience. I'm a control freak, and I've never had the experience of just having the ability to turn it over to somebody else. I think it's a failing. I'm not very spiritual, and yeah, I'm a little bit, very statistical, we'll say. Yes?
You set a schedule for yourself, a regimen for writing. Do you wait until the muse appears, or how do you?
Anyone who waits for the muse to appear is never going to finish anything. So for me, the muse never appears. Other people sometimes get the muse, but basically, now writing is my full-time job, and I work all the time. I write all the time that I'm not forced to do something else. So, and that includes, family vacations and things like that, but pretty much doesn't matter to me whether it's Saturday or it's Wednesday, whatever. And the thing is that we were talking about this earlier at lunch, so I work at home, and people say, well, aren't you distracted? What's going to distract me? Laundry? Cleaning the closet? I developed a routine when I first started writing, and I had very young children, and I wrote when they were at school. Of course, they also were at daycare and after school, so I wrote from like 9 to 5 every day. And now, now there's all this other crap that you have to do as a writer, the social media and all of that kind of stuff. So now I generally write from maybe 11 to 7, unless I was just doing this huge rewrite, and I was writing 10, 12 hours a day for 6 weeks straight. So it's just, it just depends. It's just what, I feel so privileged and so lucky to be able to do this, that I've just integrated it, into how I live and who I am. It's a lucky thing. So I guess we should stop. I'm going to be signing books over there or if you have any questions you didn't want to ask in front of the group, you can ask me then. So, Nancy, yes? So.
Thank you so much for your generosity and your inspiration. Let's give a hand to Barbara.
Like our matching dresses? We didn't plan it.
Not at all. And classes will resume after the book signing and so on. I know our teachers will understand. Thank you very much, all of you.